It's not for nothing that this is being compared to a world war. This conflict is being shaped in different capitals of the world, and WION has correspondents tracking this story from all sides. Tonight we'll take you to Moscow, Brussels and Washington DC with our correspondents Julia Chapman, Rosie Burchard and Simon Marks. Julia, let's start with you. The president of France is in Moscow. Russia has limited expectations. Do you see this visit dialing down the tensions, if not resolving the situation?
We're expecting a change in the rhetoric from the French government when it comes to engaging with Russia, a change in comparison to that of countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, among others. Emmanuel Macron says that he believes a deal can be reached with Russia. Other countries haven't been quite so optimistic about that. President Macron, in an interview to a French newspaper, said that he wouldn't be leaving Russia without any kind of signal that there could be a de-escalation. But he also pointed out that Russia deserves respect. He said that Russia has a right to raise its own security concerns. And he will be speaking with President Vladimir Putin about ways that Europe can at least meet Russia halfway. So there could be some kind of compromise that he is looking to forge. Whether or not he has unity from other European leaders remains unclear. But certainly there are concerns that he is too willing to make concessions to Moscow.
Simon, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is visiting Washington, D.C. Tell us what's expected in his meeting with Joe Biden.
This is an absolutely vital meeting between the US and German leaders, and it comes at a time of substantial tension in the relationship between Washington and Berlin, even though President Biden insists that the US and Germany are absolutely standing shoulder to shoulder as they prepare for a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine. Behind the scenes, there are substantial disagreements between Germany and Washington, and the two leaders are going to try and address some of those here today. Those disagreements focus on some of the sanctions that the Biden administration is planning to impose against Russia if Vladimir Putin orders an invasion of Ukraine. Specifically, the Germans are pushing back against the idea of banning Russian financial institutions from SWIFT. That's the big interbank exchange that is absolutely crucial for financial institutions if they want to carry on being able to transfer money around the world. The Germans don't like that idea at all, but also there will be an intensity of focus on the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. That's the pipeline that is planned. It's built already. It just needs to be tested and given regulatory approval before it is switched on so that it can deliver substantial supplies of natural gas from Russia to Germany and to the rest of Europe. The Biden administration is threatening to reimpose sanctions over Nord Stream 2 if the Russians invade Ukraine, and the Germans are very concerned about that prospect because Germany and the rest of Europe is so reliant on imports of gas from Russia, particularly during the chilly annual winter period. So both of those issues are substantial fissures in the relationship between Washington and Berlin, but the relationship has also been damaged by Germany's insistence that it's not going to provide lethal aid to Ukraine, weaponry supplies from Germany. The German government says it's upholding a long-standing tradition of not selling weapons into an environment where hostilities could soon break out. I think when the two leaders hold their joint press conference, we're going to see once again a projection of unity. But the question is, will they succeed in actually achieving it, or will it simply be another projection? Because certainly at the moment there is substantial frustration within the Biden administration about the actions and statements of the German government.
Rosie, the military buildup continues in eastern Ukraine. The Belgian army has put its troops on standby. How much can talks deliver in a situation like this? Is the window for diplomacy shrinking?
French President Emmanuel Macron certainly thinks that window of opportunity is still open. He's heading to Russia for some crunch talks with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. And ahead of those talks, French President Macron said he did hope that there would be a solution in sight. Now, Macron seems to be really casting himself as a leader here when it comes to trying to diffuse these tensions and pursuing diplomacy. He seems to be also the kind of protagonist of NATO's dual-track approach. So that dual track is deterrence on the one hand, but dialogue on the other. And he is championing dialogue today. Now, remember, one of those things they might be discussing is some proposals NATO has made to Russia on places they could perhaps find common ground. So, for example, on arms control, on greater coordination on military exercises. And other allies and EU member states will be watching closely today to see if there can be any common ground found. But this is a very unpredictable situation, and it's really unclear where these talks are going to land and whether or not diplomacy is going to succeed, or indeed, if in this case, diplomacy is going to fail.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Gravitas Ukraine Direct. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.